Okay. Hi everyone, I'm going to explain to you the Scrum Framework in hopefully 10 minutes or less. Why do we use the Scrum Framework? Well, Gareth just already explained to you the whole Cynefin thing about the complex domain. Scrum is a framework that handles complex domains. It's because we don't know everything at the start. And so we want to limit the risk. And the way we limit the risk is by time boxing. That's the principle of Scrum. Compared with Kanban, where you limit the risk by limiting work in progress. It's the main difference between the two. So the Scrum Framework is built on 3 pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And they underpin everything in Scrum. So we've talked about the why, because it's complex, and so we use the empiricism approach, which is to probe and measure what happens and adapt. We talked about the 3 pillars. There are 5 values for Scrum: focus, openness, commitment, courage, and respect. These are important, particularly in the Scrum team. We want the Scrum team to be able to focus on just the work that is in progress at the time, nothing else. Openness, that we're not hiding anything. It's about this transparency, because we can't make our decisions about how we adapt. We can't inspect if we're not open and we can see everything that's going on. Commitment, we have a commitment to the goals and what we're trying to achieve. We have courage to be able to speak up when things aren't going right, to challenge, to say, I'm not sure that this is meeting the goal. And respect. And all of this combines to give us this overriding value of trust. And that's Scrum requires the trust. So if we go into we've done the 5 values, we've got 3 roles. So in Scrum, there is the role called the product owner. The product owner is the representative of the stakeholders. And the product owner is like the shield from the stakeholders, so the stakeholders can't influence the Scrum team when they're doing their work. The product owner gets an allocation of money, a goal that they would need to produce, and they come up with a thing called the product backlog. Product backlog, which is a bunch of features that they want to build and to deliver to the customer. The job of the product owner is to maintain the product backlog and to order it in terms of priority, so that the things at the top of the list are the things that are going to generate what they think will be the highest business value. Coming back to our, inspect and adapt. We think this is what's the highest business value, we'll start at the top. Who else is in the Scrum team? There is the Scrum Master, Laura and Fraedom, the Kaizen Coach. And their job is to coach the product owner, to coach the delivery team, to guide in terms of what the Scrum principles and events and things like that are, remove impediments, all those sort of things. And then you have the delivery team. The development team. And that is a self-organizing, cross-functional team, which in Fraedom consists of developers, tester, BA, and part of a technical communicator and things like that. And all together, these make up a Scrum team. And their job is to deliver value for the business to the customer. How do we do that? Through our 4 events. So we have one overriding event, which is the sprint, But within the sprint, let's call this the sprint, we have a number of events. And the first event is sprint planning. And in the sprint planning, the product owner brings to the Scrum team a sprint goal. This is what we want to achieve in this sprint. Let's talk a little bit about the sprint first. The sprint is typically 1 to 4 weeks, no more, no less. In Fraedom, it's 2 weeks for the delivery teams. And that's our time box to limit risk. The product owner also brings in the top priority items from their product backlog. And then there's a meeting to discuss that with the Scrum team and to say, what can we get done in this sprint? And that's a conversation about, how big are these items? I think we can do that one and that one, but this one requires that one down there, so we'll leave that to another time and we can fit in that one. And that's based on empiricism in terms of how fast we have produced things in the past and what we think we can manage this time, who's away, what holidays there are, all those sort of questions. So from that, we produce another artifact, and that is the sprint backlog. And that's the things that the team thinks that they can get done in this sprint. The sprint goal is also negotiated with the sprint team. Does this make sense? This is meant to be the why. Why are we doing this work in this sprint? It's the purpose. That's what we're aiming for. So the next sprint, the next event is the daily stand-up. And in our 2-week sprint, we have 10 of those. And that's an opportunity to inspect and adapt what the work is that's going on. Are we heading towards the sprint goal? And typically it involves asking questions like, what did we accomplish? What did I accomplish yesterday that got us towards the sprint goal? What am I going to work on today that's getting us towards the sprint goal? And is there anything else? Is there anything stopping me, holding me up from reaching the sprint goal? So it's an inspection and an adaptation of the work. It happens, it's time bound to 15 minutes. It happens in the same place at the same time every day, just so that there's less cognitive overload. At the end of the sprint, there's another sprint event, and that's called the review. The sprint review is where the product owner invites the stakeholders and the team to look at what was produced in the sprint. So typically, it's a list of things that got done, maybe a couple of things that didn't get done. So it's an opportunity to be transparent and inspect and adapt the what. What was worked on? What were the impediments? What held us up from accomplishing everything that we wanted to achieve? And then after the sprint review, the external people leave, and the team itself does a thing called a retrospective. That's our final event, and in the retrospective, we talk about the how we worked, how can we're inspecting and adapting how we worked, how can we do better? What sort of things, maybe there's some action items that come out of that as to how, as a team, we can improve and be more productive in the next sprint. And so there may be some action items that come out of that may go back into a sprint backlog next time. The things in here that were not done, they will go back onto the product backlog because they may or may not be regarded as the highest priority items in the next sprint. So, one more thing up here is the definition of done. It's our inspection criteria for have we actually finished this sprint item to say that it's done. And that's something that's agreed, that's a policy that's agreed by the team. So those are our 3 pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. 5 values: focus, openness, commitment, courage and respect, 3 roles, those 4 events, planning, daily stand-up, review and retro, and 3 artifacts, the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and I didn't tell you that in the end, this is what we're aiming for, the potentially shippable item, increment, which the product owner can say, this is ready to go, we don't have to ship it, but it's deliverable. And that's the Scrum Framework.